this video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the TriCaster 8000's hardware and software components to hopefully give you a better idea of how you can use it for your projects or productions, allowing you to achieve your outcomes in the best possible way. The TriCaster 8000 is a very powerful Windows machine with a dedicated video and audio hardware setup, allowing for a very capable broadcast-in-a-box solution for multi-camera environments. Behind the front panel, you will find the power button and 4 drive bays for the removable hard drives. The system contains 2 internal hard drives, drives C and D, but it is not recommended that you record to these. As the TriCaster records roughly 100 megabits per second XT-Cam based footage, these hard drives can only accommodate 2 simultaneous recordings. If you try to record more per drive, you're likely to experience corrupted recordings or frame dropouts. So with the 4 drive bays each loaded with a drive, this allows you to record 8 simultaneous video streams. At the back of the TriCaster, you'll find all the video, audio, data, and power connectors for the system. You've got your 8 Sdi inputs. This is where you connect any camera or Sdi equipment generating an output. In our setup, these are connected to our Sdi switch, allowing any copper or fiber Sdi video signal to be used here. Then we've got our Sdi outputs. This is where you connect your output ingest or video monitors to view the broadcast or the TriCaster's output. These all output program by default. To have program, preview, and program clean or other outputs fed to separate Sdi outputs, you need to configure this in the hardware configuration window. In our setup, these are again connected to our Sdi switch, allowing any copper or fiber Sdi video destination to receive signal from here. Then we've got our 16 analog mic line balanced inputs. These are remote controlled in the interface's audio mixer to accept mic level or line level, and can supply phantom power to microphones that need this to operate. If set to line input, any of the 16 channels can accept LTC timecode from within the time settings in the interface. We have these wired to the audio patch bay. Then we've got our 8 analog line balanced outputs. These outputs are to feed external recorders, broadcast inputs, or studio monitoring devices. We have these wired to our patch bay as well. Then we've got 1 headphone output, and this allows the user to monitor the audio without needing to use external equipment. We have this wired to the panel in front of the TC8000 CS control surface. We've got our 8 stereo AS3ID inputs and 2 stereo AS3ID outputs. These are permanently connected to the Lawwoo core as sources and destinations, and are preferred over the analog inputs and outputs as they are not susceptible to level mismatches and any possibility of noise being induced. We have 1 video sync input. If the TriCaster is clocked to an external video sync signal and the camera and other video equipment is also clocked to the same signal, then it is possible to have lower input to output delay through the system. If no external signal is used and all cameras are unclocked, then frames received at the input of the TriCaster are delayed until the next frame boundary cycle is reached. Then we've got our display ports. These drive the interface and multi-view monitors. There are 2 USB 3 and 2 USB 2 ports for keyboard, mouse, and hard drive connections. There's one 1 gigabit per second Ethernet connection which allows for NDI video, Dante audio, and other network functionality. We then have our 8 analog video inputs in the YPB-PR format. These component analog video inputs also allow for YC S-video connections using the PB and PR connections only, or composite video connections using the Y connection only. Then we have our 3 analog outputs, also in the YPB-PR format, and these can also be configured to host YC or composite video signals. Then we've got our dual redundant power supplies. These are hot swappable PSUs, allowing for one PSU to fail and get replaced, while the other PSU takes over. It is possible to control the TriCaster from the software interface with your mouse and keyboard, but this is not the best way to leverage the power of the TriCaster. NewTek have a variety of control surfaces made for their different models of TriCasters. The TriCaster 8000 comes with a TC8000 CS control surface that gives you quick access to all of the important functions that you will need in any multi-camera production. It may look a bit intimidating at first, but if you divide the controller up into sections, you will quickly realize the logic behind the layouts. We've got our program preview source selectors, allowing you to choose what sources get shown on the program output or are previewed before going to the program output. Then you've got the program preview DSK, which is downstream key source selectors. This allows you to choose what sources get set as DSKs for the program output. We have the main transition buttons in T-bar, allowing you to perform fade or transition effects with the T-bar, or use the take button to send the preview source to program. Then we've got the main Dsk Positioner Selector, allowing you to choose which main Dsk delegate to focus onto the positioner function selectors. Then we have our Emmy layer source selectors, allowing you to choose which sources get shown on the Emmy outputs. We have the Emmy layer key source selectors, allowing you to choose what sources get set as the keys for the Emmy outputs. We've got the Emmy transition button and T-bar, allowing you to fade or trans with the T-bar or use the take buttons to send the Emmy's layer B source to the layer A source. Then we have the Emmy source and key positioner selectors, allowing you to choose which Emmy key delegate to focus onto the positioner function selectors. Then the positioner function selectors. These allow you to scale, rotate, and crop any DSK or Emmy layer or Emmy key using the joystick. The digital players. These controls allow you to control the DDRs, GFX, and sound players. The record buttons enable you to start recording, streaming, or grab stills directly to any of your digital players. The TriCaster Live desktop can be operated through the software or through a connected controller. The software interface is more than just a user interface, as there are multiple ways to see your inputs and sources in various multi-view windows. Before you get into the live production's live desktop by creating new or opening an existing session, there are other pages and features to navigate which are not covered in detail here in the add-ons, help, and shutdown pages. Once you're in the TriCaster Live desktop session, you're presented with the main interface window and then one or two multi-view windows. Currently, what you see in the interface window has been set to show you scopes instead of another multi-view section. These scopes allow you to inspect any sources that are being previewed. Both the interface and multi-view windows can be changed according to your preferences from within the menus as presets, or you can right-click on any of the source windows and choose different sources to display in that multi-view setup. There are also overlays you can choose to be shown by right-clicking on any multi-view source window. A few of these are tally borders, safe areas, illegal levels, and VU meters. Now let's look at every section of the interface window. We have the main strip, sources, and DSKs. This is where the program and preview strips are containing the source buttons. You will see to the right of the strips is the background control with a visual representation of the program output, a virtual T-bar, take and auto buttons as well. Now to the right of the background controls are 4 downstream keys, where you can choose the source delegates for these. Then we've got the Emmy strip, sources, and keys. Very much like the main strip below, except for 2 main differences. The rows are called A and B, and C and D if you have 4-layer ME, instead of just having program and preview. There are also no downstream keys, they are just labeled keys to differentiate them from the main downstream keys. Then we have the DDRs, GFX, sound, mixer, and buffers section. DDRs are digital disc recorders and are primarily used for playback, but can be used to replay recordings as well. The TC8000 has 2 DDRs. The GFX windows are graphics players, and the TC8000 has 2 of these. Sound is a dedicated audio player, although DDRs can also play audio-only content. The buffers comprise of 15 containers that can house graphics, animations, and titles to be used as sources, or more commonly used for the keys. Then we have the Program Preview Multiview. As mentioned previously, this has been configured to show scopes to measure any signal that has been previewed. Then we've got our file name and menus. This will show the file name until the mouse is moved over its position, where the file menus then become visible. Then we have our export, capture, and output settings. Here you can set the recording and streaming sources and settings, and grab, time, and export settings, and also see all logs or errors that the system may have. I hope that this video has been helpful. Please check out the next videos about vision mixing basics and the background layer, keys, and Emmy buses.